Part two. All right. So we end up moving into, we rent from my dad, right? And this was before I got certified. This was before I really started working like side by side with my dad, like all the time, right? He was trying to work my daughter's dad, right? But he just couldn't get the hang of it. So my dad started taking me instead of him. And I think that caused some kind of strife between me and him. And he started putting his hands on me somewhere in that time frame, right? And it got bad, you guys. He hospitalized me twice. He was the type to beat me up, rape me, and then make me go to church on Sunday. So I was church hurt. I was hurt all the way around. This man was supposed to be my provider, my protector, and here he was beating me to a bloody pulp and making me have sex with him afterwards, and then saying, like, yeah, let's go to church tomorrow. It was just me covering up the black eyes and the bruises from the shame and the guilt, and me not wanting nobody to know because of how humiliating it was. Some of the stuff he did to me, I would never repeat it. It's that degrading. He was trying to break my spirit. The spirits that were manifesting inside of him identified me, and they were trying to tear me apart too. Okay? And one night I had had enough. I finally snapped and ended up hurting him really bad with the fire poker. Okay, and after that, he left. Okay, he finally left, and it was like I was finally free. You know what I mean? And he had ended up going out of state, right? Him and my dad had fought a couple times, like fist fought. It was just a big ordeal. So here I am with this baby. I didn't want to be a single mom. I didn't want to be that girl. I didn't want to be that girl, but I didn't have a choice. You know what I'm saying? So when he left, I'm like, okay, it's just me and her in this thing. I got this. And mind you, I'm still breaking off all them old addictions, you guys. Like, yeah, you would think a child would be enough for you to get clean, but man, that addiction's still there. And I was not only was I trying to clean up my life, but I was getting abused by my provider, right? The one that was supposed to care for me. So I found myself relapsing and falling back and forth with this. It was a really hard journey, you guys, and to even talk about it is hard. Okay, so God had started talking to me and pulling me into Him. I thought I was a witch. I thought I New Age was the answer. I wasn't sure. I just knew I couldn't really connect with the religious church. But I started reading the Bible more, right? And that's when things really started to make sense to me. So I'm a functioning addict. I'm, smoking weed and doing other things behind the scenes that nobody knew about while I was still functioning, right? And so fast forward a little bit longer, I got the hang of it. I was doing good. I was single. I was single for 3 years, you guys. Just celibate. I was done with the dating game. I got involved with a narcissist right after her dad had left, shortly after her dad had left, and that was bad too, you guys. That we were together for 2 years, and he almost made me commit suicide. That's how bad the manipulation was. Okay, so I finally start releasing myself from that kind of trauma bond because that was real. I thought he was my soulmate, my twin flame, whatever you want to call it. Meanwhile, he's cheating on me with prostitutes and everything else. You guys know how narcissists are. And and then I finally said that's enough. And that's when I went to 3 years with no contact with anybody, right? And that was when God was really mentoring to me, saying, okay, it's time to clean up. It's time for you to really seek me, right? And I had been saving up money, you guys. I had been hoarding all this money and I didn't know why. And right up to the point before God told me to move, I wasn't necessarily sowing any seeds in the ground. Like I was going to get a trampoline for my daughter. You guys, I had everything that I needed. I was making great money. I had my house, my dog, my daughter, my car. I had everything I needed, but I was miserable. I was empty. I still had a lot to heal. Unworthiness, just bitterness, the way I was raised, the time I got raped when I was a teenager, my virginity was stolen from me. There was just so much. My mom not being there for me, not protecting me like she was supposed to. There was a lot. Even my dad, like my sister died, and I had to fend for myself. And I think that's why God chose me, and I think that's why my life was so hard because I'm used to fighting just to survive. And now that I'm thriving, not just surviving, things are finally starting to come into full force. All the substances fell off, you guys. And the thing before I made that flight, before I ordered the ticket, I said, God, are you sure you want me to move out for you? He said, come to me on the strength you have. because I was so used to religion, thinking, I can't be tapping into God with this. And he said, come to me on the strength you have. That's important for somebody. So I did. So I flew to Austin. I didn't like Austin, so I rented a car and drove to San Antonio, right? And at that time, God was showing me my authority, my real purpose. He was showing me who I was without the drugs, without the worthiness, without the bull crap of the world. He lifted the weight off the world. So when I flied back home, I just remember crying my eyes out because I knew God's presence was no longer felt. I knew I had to get back there immediately, and March 14th was the deadline. So I'm trying to figure out what moving truck to get or whatever, but I was already in it, right? So I ordered the moving truck, and by that time there wasn't no backing out. And I did meet somebody during that weekend trip, okay? I postponed my flight. I postponed the rental for a whole extra day because I knew I still had something to connect with, and that comes into play later. Okay, I met a man, right, and there was immediate connection with me and him, right, and we were lost in translation, right, like big time, you guys. This whole thing was crazy, but it was God ordained. So I fly back home and I'm frantically packing all my stuff, you know what I mean? And we just take off. I get a trailer for my car and we haul to Texas, right? So I ended up driving 22 hours total, stopping at rest stops, and there was a mattress in the back, and I'd flip it down and we'd all get back there and sleep, you know, and then I'd just keep going. You guys, I had a blowout on my way down. Everything. When I'm telling you that spirits were manifesting inside people, trying to get me scared, trying to get me worried about trafficking, things like that, it's real. It's real. Like, I had to turn off my phone. I had to get a dummy phone because I knew they were tracking me, you guys. This was crazy. And this was before I had the full awareness of who I even was, right? So I make it to San Antonio and I'm driving around trying to find a place to live, trying to find an apartment to rent, right? My daughter was still enrolled in kindergarten at the time, so she was missing school. And I told them that we were in the middle of moving, that, we were going to get her transferred. So 2 weeks roll around and I'm like, I have to find a place. So I end up getting this place and it's like way over my budget. But I got it anyway. God showed me the signs, the wonders, and the symbols that led me right here. Like, there was a sign across the street that said the right building. You know what I mean? Just the synchronicities led me right where I'm at. So, excuse me. And I think that has to do with people that I've met here, right? So, when I tell you that I had to withdraw off of certain substances that I was using, I left it all, right? I didn't want to take none with me. This was a new, fresh start with me versus me, face to face with the devil, right? Being still. It was the most trialing time of my life. So not only am I here trying to heal, trying to break all these strongholds, all these generational curses off of my lineage, but I had neighbors coming up against me, making lies about me, saying things that weren't true, gang stalking me, flying monkeys. It was one narcissist ended up trying to tarnish my whole name. And it worked for a little while. She even called CPS on me, had CPS involved, and I wasn't even in Texas when this complaint went out. So the whole thing was bogus, right? And it was all the attacks. And it was God showing me who I was. He was showing me that, hey, I wasn't doing anything wrong. Seriously, you guys, because I always was quick to take the blame. Always. Always trying to cut myself down because that's all the world ever did. Nobody ever told me they were proud of me for making the sacrifices. You went from being a junkie to a single mom and actually doing it. Nobody gave me nothing besides condemnation. That's why I got away from them all. Because they all tried to persecute me over and over and over again for things that I couldn't change. I was doing my best to change the present moment. That's why we can't be looking in the past. So, not only am I up against CPS by myself, I'm down here by myself, me, my daughter, and my dog, right? Facing the government and their system and how corrupt it is. It was horrible. It was a horrible, trialing time. And you guys, narcissists are everywhere. They're in the school systems. They're your teachers. They're your doctors. They're your police officers. They're your neighbors. They're your bosses. They're your coworkers. They're your spouse. And they hide in plain sight like the angel disguised as light, right? So, me and America's Dad had been in no contact. I don't get child support from him. I don't want nothing from him. I wanted him to forget we ever existed because that's how dysfunctional we was, right? That's how dysfunctional he was. Always trying to hit me and stuff, scare the baby and stuff. I wasn't going to raise her like that because that's how I was raised. My mom got her ass beat all the time for whatever reason. So therefore, I thought it was normal, right? To get smacked around. No, It's not normal, guys. So I had to be the one to recognize that, hey, this ain't normal, and I'm breaking the chains off because it ends with me. Can I get an amen? In Jesus' mighty name, you guys. So here I am in the present moment, right? I'm maintenance free. I'm cigarettes free. I do nicotine pouches still, and I'm working on that. You guys, I don't even smoke bud anymore. And I feel my energy's higher. I trust God. I know He's with me. And like the whole universe is basically working for you when you're walking with God. God is the universe. He's everything, right? Omnipresent. And Jesus Christ has teachings that you need to follow. And He will transform your whole life. So God told me that I was going to be starting a ministry. And I'm like, God, okay. So, because my natural mind, I thought I had to get down here and get a job immediately, right? Because I didn't know how I was going to make it. But the moment I was like, okay, I'm going to quit toiling around with the world and I'm just going to relax and let God figure it out. He was showing me the ropes. And it's a battle to be still and to trust God when you've never seen real, true, solid evidence yet. You see what I'm saying? But the more you wait, the more it all starts to appear. So he had me sharing my story on Facebook Lives, recording on YouTube, things like that. No, I wasn't getting any views. Nobody was sharing my stuff. And then eventually it got to where I was getting bolder in the spirit. I would get views, but nobody would like it. Nobody would share it, right? So I'm basically casting my pearls to swine on there. And I still had yet to see my value. The more I practiced, the more I started to see it, right? I'm like, I don't see anybody else doing this. So, maybe God's onto something here. So I had gotten a job at a car wash, and that was a humbling experience. And I ended up meeting an elevator technician there, and I ended up working for him for a couple weeks. He ended up ripping me off. You guys, it was one crack after the next. I got scammed out of some kind of scheme on the internet because I was trying to invest in something, to try to keep my finances going because I had about 30 grand saved up initially before the move. So I'm trying to come up with any kind of income, right, while I was sitting, like Bitcoin, things like that. And you guys, when I tell you all I did was make it harder on myself, I ended up shooting my credit. And the debt is piled up to the ceiling because I would not just be still. My carnal mind couldn't understand that concept. So take notes with this, those you guys that have been feeling this shift. That's God calling you to move. That you've been channeled with God, or you guys don't like channeled, connected with God, the Holy Spirit. Go with the flow and be still when He says to be still, you guys. Hold tight with your finances. Don't go splurging, things like that. Because what happens is we want to think it's going to happen right now. Like, the promises of God. God's not a genie in a bottle. You have to put in work for this. You have to show strict discipline on your flesh for this. For what? To tap in. To be able to get instructions. That's why we fast. That's why we deny our flesh. You guys, I don't eat junk food anymore. I eat things that are going to lower the free radicals in my body. I'm aware that the government does chemtrails to block you and his connection. He's taught me so many things that aren't in the Bible, you guys. A lot of it is Bible based, but it even says in Jeremiah 33:3 to call on him and he's going to teach you things that you did not know. And a lot of this wisdom I don't share publicly because, first of all, you guys probably wouldn't believe me anyway, and the system don't want you to know. I see things that I'm not even supposed to see. Like with the Freemasons and stuff. The way they stalk you and monitor you. They're fascinated with you. Because you're the one. You're the one. You're the one your bloodline's been waiting on. You're the one that broke off curses that were never supposed to be broken. Your family's been waiting on you this entire time, and that's what's going to keep you strong. Whether you have kids or not, you have a lineage to create. You have a legacy to create. You have a birthright to be fulfilled. And stay strong no matter what you're going through, man. Because this world is going to come against you. Everything and anything is going to come at you when you're trying to do this.